So on my quick fitness tip number two video, it was about doing cardio after you lift, and I was saying that you should not do cardio after you lift. And I list all the reasons in that video, but I got a comment recently that sparked the idea for this video, and basically what he was saying was that Mike Israetel made a video that was agreeing with the points that I was making, not like in response to my video. I think he actually made his video before I made mine, but he came to conclusions that align with the conclusions that I came to. But at the same time, there was another YouTuber. His name is Sean Nailgjawin. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. He has kind of like a hard to pronounce last name, but he's a popular natural, quote unquote, YouTuber. I'm assuming he's natural. Um, and he came to the opposite conclusion, and that was based on studies. So his conclusion that he came to was that doing cardio after you lift was more beneficial for muscle gain based on studies than, I'm assuming, the other option would be doing it before you lift. Because, I mean, doing it in a completely separate session obviously is just better because you are isolating the two different types of exercise. So this is why you have to take these studies with a grain of salt, because there are just certain elements and aspects to lifting and gaining muscle and figuring out what works and what doesn't over time that you'll only know through experience. And I've been doing this for 20 years. I'm 34. I've been doing this since I was like 13 or 14. And I have experimented with a lot of different diets. I've experimented with, training methods that were different. And, mostly when it comes to cardio, basically every time that I would do it in the same session, I would do cardio before I lifted. And the reason was because it just works better. It has always worked better because here's what happens, okay? Like when you lift weights, you basically switch on an anabolic response. You turn on these anabolic switches in your body. And when you do cardio, you're turning those anabolic switches off. You're basically turning on the catabolic switches. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say that's like bro science, but again, like just when you experience this for yourself, you'll realize what I'm saying is true. Now, just think about it intuitively. Like at the end of your workout, how do you feel? Assuming that you hit the muscles correctly and adequately. Well, you feel, pumped, and you feel, anabolic, and it's almost like I can like feel the nitric oxide in my blood vessels, just popping, and I just feel my muscles are just, they're primed and they're ready to take in nutrition, right? The blood is already there. So like if I were to eat right away, that food's going to go right into that muscle because the blood flow is already prioritizing going to the muscles that I trained, right? And when you go and you do cardio, when you're in that state, even if it's just 30 minutes or 20 minutes, right? You get off the machine, you feel stringy. That feeling goes away. That pumped feeling goes away. That like nitric oxide feeling, your blood vessels feeling goes away. And you just feel stringy and you feel catabolic. And no matter how much you eat after, you do cardio, you just can't get that pump feeling back. You might be thinking, well, I'm just going to eat and I'm going to fill the muscles back up. And it just doesn't happen. And it does interfere with recovery. And I would rather do cardio before I lift because I get that out of the way. And then, yeah, I mean, you're going to deplete some glycogen, sure. But at least the last thing that I did was I lifted weights. So I put the blood flow in the muscle last thing before I go to my car and I eat my post-workout meal. So another way to think of it is like, let's say you're in that state, you just lifted weights, you're pumped, you got that nitric oxide feeling in your blood vessels, the blood flow is there, you're feeling anabolic, the anabolic switches have all been turned on. you have two options. What do you think is going to be better for your recovery? Doing cardio for 30 minutes and then just like losing all of that blood flow to the muscle and feeling stringy after, or going straight to your car when you feel like that, when you got all that blood in the muscle, you're feeling anabolic, and eating, drinking your protein shake, or in my case, I eat like a can of salmon and some like healthy carbs, maybe a little bit of sugar to replenish the glycogen. What do you think is going to be better for your anabolic response? Obviously, the latter. Obviously, getting food into the muscle right after you train. Doing cardio is just stupid, honestly. I mean, really. And I don't fault people if they're new to lifting and they want guidance and they listen to somebody who says do it after you lift, and they do it out of just pure ignorance because they just they don't know. They're naive. They haven't been in the game long enough to understand through experience that that's not the correct way to do it. I don't fault people for that. But like, if you come across information like the information that I'm giving you, or I guess Mike Israetel in his video, if you come across information like this and you continue to do cardio after you lift, I mean, I don't know who can help you, really. I mean, you're shooting yourself in the foot at that point. You're just holding yourself back, So, I mean, if you don't want to hold yourself back, stop doing that. Just keep, or continue to lift weights, but do cardio either before or in a completely different session. Don't do it after you lift. Don't do it. It's not going to help you. It's only going to hurt you. So, and you might be thinking, well, why do these studies show this then? Well, assuming that we give the studies the benefit of the doubt and trust that it wasn't just purely measurement error, like they just incorrectly measured the amount of muscle gain. Because like how are they measuring this? Are they measuring strength gains? Are they giving them like DEXA scans? And like, like how are they measuring? Like if you have two groups of people, one does cardio after they lift and one does cardio before, or like in a different training session, how are they measuring the progress? I want to know that. But like, let's give them the benefit of the doubt and say that, okay, the measurements were accurate. Like the group that did cardio after they lifted actually did gain more muscle. Well, here's the problem with that. Okay. You don't know what these people are doing outside of the gym. And honestly, like what you do outside of the gym is just as important, if not even more important than what you do in the gym, because you spend more time outside of the gym. So you have more time where you have to get things right with your diet, because when you're in the gym, all you're doing is you're eliciting an anabolic response. All you're doing is you're instructing your body where to put muscle onto your body. So it's just a programming thing, right? But outside of the gym is where the real magic happens. That's where you actually gain the muscle, right? Through the food that you eat. So you have to get things right for a longer period of time. You're only in the gym for like an hour or 2 hours. You're outside of the gym for like 48 hours, 72 hours, right? So like, okay, you might be looking at these people inside of the gym. They lift for like 45 minutes. They do like 30 minutes of cardio and then they leave. But you don't know what these people are doing outside of the gym. So if the group that did cardio after they lifted were doing more things right outside of the gym, and the group that did cardio before or in a different training session altogether were doing things outside of the gym that were not in the best interest of gaining muscle, then you have a flawed result, because you're not accounting for those variables. And I don't know how you would even account for those variables at all, because you can't just like lock these people in a warehouse and like force them to all eat the same foods and then like just control the variables in that way, like lab mice, you know what I mean? So like you have to let them live their lives. And so like what's going to end up happening is just human nature is going to take over, and people most people fuck up outside the gym. Most people don't eat enough protein. The meal timing is off. They drink, or they do stupid things outside of the gym that compromises their ability to adequately recover and put on muscle. Okay. So like, you just can't account for these things. So I will trust my personal experience 10 times out of 10 over these studies. And like the people who conduct these studies, the scientists, quote unquote, most likely haven't even stepped foot in a gym. You know, they're probably like, you know, pencil neck looking people, you know, and, you know, pushing their glasses up and, you know, with their clipboards and, oh, this guy gained this much amount of muscle, and, you know, skinny twig scientists who, you know, go to the gym, just go and figure out what works, figure out what doesn't work, do it on your own. Experience is invaluable. Like it's worth its weight in gold, especially with the gym, because like there's so much information out there that conflicts with each other. You're not going to figure it out just by like Googling this shit. You have to go in the trenches and figure it out for yourself. It's just something that you got to do. You got to figure it out for yourself. So yeah, you know, so going back to the main point, you know, like you got to take these studies with a grain of salt. You can't just rely on these studies. If you're new to lifting and you're looking for a starting point, I mean, you want to keep it as simple as possible. You don't want to go to the gym every day. You know, that's a huge mistake that new lifters make. You know, they think, oh, well, I got to go like on a body part split. No, just like pick like, you know, a few exercises, like pick one compound movement and a few isolation movements and just focus on that. Go like on Monday and go on like Thursday or Friday, you know, and just go twice a week for like an hour and just like, you know, do incline pressing and then maybe like, you know, if you can't do pull-ups yet or chin-ups, you know, maybe some lat pull downs and like some bicep curls and side lateral raises, maybe some tricep stuff and leave, you know, just keep it simple, right? Start small, start, you know, bite-sized chunks, right? You don't want to like chew off more than you can, than you could handle, right? So you want to make sure that you're doing things reasonably and rationally, and just figure out what works from there. It'll grow on its own. You'll figure things out. It's way better to figure these things out on your own while using other people as like a method for guidance, right? I'm not saying ignore what people have to say altogether, but like use them for guidance and ideas, and especially like learning new exercises and the correct techniques and form for these exercises, right? You definitely want to know the correct forms for exercises. So make sure you're using the correct forms, right? So that's where like, you know, information from other people is really invaluable. So again, don't do cardio after you lift. Don't just blindly trust these studies. Take them with a grain of salt. Trust your gut. Trust your own experience. So thank you for watching. Have a good day. Feel free to subscribe. I would appreciate it. Thank you. Bye.